Familiar fruit. Strange fruits no longer hang in the popular trees. They become familiar fruits harvested on the ground. The streets bear a familiar fruit. Blood on the concrete and bloodshed with ill repute. Black bodies cut down like annual weeds. There's familiar fruit streaming on the popular feeds. Liberty and justice for all. Accidentally shot even when you made the call. Facades of equality sweet and fresh. Then the sudden stench of another unarmed black death. Here's another fruit plucked too soon. Another peel rind for the compost. Another fruit-bearing tree that won't reach its bloom. Leaves withered and branches lopped. Here's a familiar and spoiled crop. Welcome back to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast, the place where poetry meets conversation. I'm your host, Terrence P. Elmore, and before we get into today's topic, make sure you hit that plus sign so you don't miss an episode. Also, please subscribe to my blog, thebrownssugarcafe.blog, and if you find any value in this episode or any other episodes, make sure you leave a heartfelt review. So with that being said, let's get to it. Welcome back to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast. This is the season finale. Thank you all for hanging out with me all season long. Hope you all enjoy my guests. It's been a pretty good season. I've had some really good conversations with some really good guests. So if you've missed those episodes, please go back and check them out. It's National Poetry Month, and I know I said before that I would have a whole month dedicated to my book, but things didn't go that way. I decided to go another route. So I decided to have a episode dedicated to my book as the finale. And to help me do this, I have a special guest. This is not his first time on the podcast. This is, matter of fact, this is the person who got me started podcasting. Not going to give too much away because I want him to introduce himself, but he and I are also the co-host of Black Smoke Barbecue Podcast, Past the Remote. Without further ado, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Yo, first of all, thank you for that intro, that semi-intro, as you said in the pre-show.
Yeah.
My name's Charlie Maveric. I was a local singer, songwriter back in the day, podcaster later in life, do IT work, just like you, Terrence. You do IT work. Creative minds, we get together every once in a while, and we just try to make some magic happen. We push a lot of content out to you guys.
Yes.
Yeah. What's going on, man? How you been?
Man, nothing much. Been all right, man. It's been a pretty good season.
Yeah.
I did get a couple of other poets in here, though, before I wrapped it up, so that was good.
Yeah, I'm honored. So, first, I'm on the finale. I'm not a writer, not a poet. I wrote poetry back in the day, but, haven't we all at some capacity? I didn't think it was good, and it probably wasn't, but I'm really honored to be on the finale, man. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. I was sitting there thinking, I was like, man, who could I get? And I was like, Charlie, of course. I'm like, he hadn't been on the podcast in a while. He'd be the perfect host. I mean, we already do podcasts together anyway.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we do that.
You got me started, man. I was on the Mavcast. Was it even called Mavcast back then?
I don't know, man. It's been a long time. I know it started out as the Charlie Maveric show, maybe?
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Then it was Cell Tech Junkie at one point.
Yeah, you're right.
Then it changed to the Mavcast. That stuck around.
Yeah.
Oh, no. It was it was something else. I can't remember. But yeah, different variations.
Yeah.
You've been on plenty of times. And that's how we started the Pastor Moat podcast.
Yeah. And before that, I joined you with the Backyard Pit Masters.
Yeah.
Yeah, we been doing this thing for a while, man.
Been around the block. Let's talk about this book.
This book took me a while to do this book, but I guess you're taking over as a host, so I guess I'll let you do your thing.
I told you to be prepared to be interviewed. So, first of all, I want to know, when you were putting the book together, when you were assembling the sequence of these written poems, these spoken word artifacts, what made you come with something so powerful on the first one?
That's a good question. So that particular poem, which is the first poem in the book, the one that I opened with, I wasn't going to put that in the book at all because I felt like it might have been too heavy. And this book went through different phases. Like when I got the idea, it was like, pretty much just try to do some poems kind of geared towards men that everybody can enjoy. But then during that time, we had the George Floyd murder and all these other different murders by police officers, and just we were in the pandemic. It was a whole lot going on.
Rough.
So I use writing as my outlet to get these frustrations out, and that poem was one of the poems that I wrote. It's my modern version of Strange Fruit. And so what I did was I took the poem Strange Fruit and I went line by line to create my own poem. And so after, it took me a while to really get it worked how I wanted it. And so after I got that done, and I had some other poems I had been working on, I was like, I don't think I want to share these, because I decided in my writing process that whatever I shared, I wanted to still give some hope.
Right.
And I didn't want to just, because it was a poet that said something that I never really thought about. He was just talking about poetry in general. And he was saying that a lot of times people write these deep poems and these poems about like bad things that happen into their lives. And he's like, that's cool, but don't leave the listener or the reader there. It's like, if you're going to say all this stuff, bring them into some hope, because it's like what they like to call trauma poems. And if they're just over and over and over again, you bring your audience down. So I was thinking about that. I was like, well, I want some hope in this book. I don't want it to just be a bunch of, I'm upset with how things are going and, the hard stuff we deal with as being black men in general. And so I was like, but talking to my wife and my mother, at the same time, we had a conversation and they were saying that I should put it in there. And it should be like a beacon of light, saying like, this was a poem that I didn't want in here, but the rest of the book offers hope. And I was like, that sounds like a pretty good concept. So I decided to put it in there and put it in the beginning.
I think you putting that as the beginning is a way to level set the mood of, this is where we're starting from. This is where I'm going to take you. Right?
Yeah.
Because the book inspires hope. Pain is not our only paintbrush. We try to mold our lives in a certain way by our experiences. And it's not only molded through pain, but right now, what is pushing me right now, the catalyst for this book to come out, is all the pain that I'm seeing in this world. And we're all seeing through that pandemic. And it was rough.
What?
We were all feeling it, man.
Yeah.
It was rough. We're all feeling it. And in a place and time, it was the right thing at the right time to feel and the level set at. And I think it was a perfect way to start off this book. So, tell me about the mood that you had to be in to write these words, because this is very, you wordsmith this thing now. I mean, it's not just easy like reading words. You got to kind of think about painting the picture as you read along. What kind of mindset were you in when you were writing this?
I went back and forth with the poem when I was working on it. Like I stopped, came back to it, stopped, came back to it. When I look for inspiration, I watch some documentaries, listen to some music. I think I watched I Am Not Your Negro and some other
Good one.
things while I, was working on this. I cannot remember the name of the other documentary that I watched. But I watched a couple of documentaries, listened to some old school hip hop, and the last poem in my book is kind of like an answer to this first one. That actual poem, when Killer Mike came out with his CD, Michael, that actually helped catapult that poem.
Ah, okay.
So it just depends, man. Like with that poem, like I said, I put it down, picked it up, put it down, picked it up. And I just started thinking of how I could, and that part wasn't hard, which is crazy, but how I can make that modern as far as, in the original poem, black bodies hanging from the popular trees.
Sound like a rap line.
Yeah. Popular, you know what I'm saying? Popular feeds, like
Yeah.
your news feed, your timeline feed, things like that. So it was a way for me to modernize it and just see like what's happening and what's always been happening, but it would seem like it was more spotlighted during the pandemic when you had the whole Black Lives Matter movement and everything. It was more spotlighted, and I was able to take that and just like, okay, well, this is how it was then, kind of still is now, but let me bring it up to speed. Let me find some things to kind of intermingle, I guess you would say, the two. And so it was like music and documentaries and just sitting and thinking, like reflecting on, my mood at the time and what was going on.
So when you finished writing the poem and you read it back, was it like euphoric? Did it help you out mentally, spiritually, cope with what's going on?
You know what? No. I would say that's a very good question, by the way. I would say it was a sigh of relief that I was finished and that I was satisfied with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it made me feel, I was happy that I was complete with it, but just the fact that the content of it and how I made that so real, it was kind of like I don't know, like a bittersweet feeling.
Right.
Like I have all the stuff in there and it's accurate.
Yeah.
And my hope is that 50, 75, 100 years from now, that it won't still be accurate. So that's the feeling I had.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a little bit, because a lot was going on during that time. And a lot is going on now.
Yeah.
Have things gotten better, same, or worse?
Man, they've gotten worse. And that's crazy that we're having this conversation a few years after I finished that poem. And now it's like, it's time to write something else.
Yeah.
Because the crazy thing about like what's going on now, people who think like these things don't affect them, they're following what somebody else said instead of just actually doing the research for themselves. Which is that something that's common now. Like you see something, and not us particularly, but people see stuff and they're like, oh, so and so said it, this is what's happening. But they never took the opportunity to research and see if like, okay, is this true? They just believe that because a certain person says stuff that it's true.
Yeah.
And that's really sad. It's like, do the research yourself. If you would actually do the research yourself, you would see that none of this stuff is true. Yeah. And then now these things are trickling over and affecting those people. And now they're like, oh no, I mean, come on, man. What did you think was going to happen?
Well, I mean, that's unfortunately how the world works.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. We'll get better one day or not.
Yeah.
But
I hope so, man. I mean, it's still, all of that stuff hasn't knocked down a lot of progress, because if you look at, like, when it came to DEI stuff, and we didn't really benefit on it on a large scale like it was led to believe.
Right.
Yeah. So that
almost
part,
a scam. Like,
yeah. So that part didn't really, affect anything. It's just certain corporations who, during the pandemic, we're all equal, we're pro-black, and we're going to do this, and we're going to roll out these different initiatives, and we're going to do these things, and we have all these plans to do this stuff. And now they're like, hey, I know we said that we were going to do this, but this federal money is a little more important than us supporting the cause. So
yeah, it's unfortunate that the way the world sways is it could be controlled by one person's moves.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, when the whole DI thing started, I mean, we talked about it jokingly and in serious capacity. I was like, as soon as they can get away with not doing it, they will.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Because it's all about money, man. We live in a capitalist society where money drives everything. People are more focused on money than moral values. It's like they'll compromise what they actually believe just for money. And a lot of that's has gone on. Like, people are like, some of the people who are rolling back things, I guarantee you a good number of them don't like that decision. But they're thinking about feeding their families. They're thinking about keeping a job. So they go with it.
Yeah. But the way that the world works, it'll get better. And then we have peaks and valleys,
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't get too bad.
Yeah. Hopefully, man.
Yes. Yeah. So great talking about this first installment of your book. So let's talk about the next one.
Manhood. Every day we navigate through the labyrinth of manhood, unable to locate a map or borrow one from the fathers who are still piecing together their own. We stumble through the way they stumbled before us, sometimes walking into walls, mistaking them for pathways, sometimes walking down dead-end pathways, mistaking them for a way out. Through the frustration and confusion, we learn which turns we must make and which ones we must avoid. With every misstep and setback, we understand more that manhood is learning from the mistakes of the past in order to move into the future. Without fully understanding the assignment, we learn how to become men by instructing ourselves. We learned from our individual mistakes and took notes from each other's. Unqualified and underexperienced, we put together faulty lesson plans and fumbled through flawed curriculums, thinking that when we became adults, we would have it all figured out, as if getting older is an automatic rite of passage, a certification signifying achievement and a successful completion of boyhood. We learn how to become men through the guidance of each other, observing all of the wrong ways. We eventually came up with the plan to get it right.
First of all, I want to say that should be used in commencement addresses.
Oh man, appreciate it.
Straight up. Because it's that time of the year as well. And it's kind of reminding multiple generations of things, right? To me, I look at it and say, hey, all right, so this is a man in his 40s looking back and saying, hey, I've been through some stuff because I thought I knew what I knew, and I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't realize it until it was too late, but I learned from it. I capitalized on things that were my strengths, and I tried to turn my weaknesses into not weaknesses, right? Then you look back and you are talking to what we call young blood, which, you know, our older generations call us young blood. And now we can say, hey, you know, I could talk to my nephew. I say, hey, Austin, hey, let me sit down with you. I went through this stuff that you're about to go through. You probably ain't going to listen until it happens to you, because you got to go through it sometimes. But you're going to remember this. You think you know what you're doing. You think the choices that you're making are great. But depending on where your mind is at, you can hit that dead end really quick.
Yeah.
And it's a way to kind of look back and say, well, this is how growth happens. You have to make mistakes. You have to use those mistakes as learning opportunities to be better. But at no point should you feel that you know enough to just coast through, because life is a constant lesson. Hey, that thing was powerful, man. What made you write that?
So, oddly enough, I was in a clubhouse room during the pandemic. That's back when nobody was outside. So,
Right.
I was in a room. It was a room with men having conversations, and somebody brought up the fact that how we spotlight and we talk about men growing up in houses with single mothers, and, you know, them not learning certain things. And he was like, from his perspective, he had a 2-parent home, but, you know, his father wasn't hands-on. And I started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, my pops really wasn't hands-on like that. He came from a single parent household. And so that kind of has an effect, because when you think about it, you're raising a boy, so you tell him figure it out, because as a woman, you don't really know how to tell him to be a man.
Right.
And so some of the things like we had to figure out, and I noticed like some of my friends as well, it's a lot of stuff we just had to figure out. Of course, you know, we got like the general advice and stuff like that, but like a lot of stuff we had to figure out, and we were figuring out. We was giving each other advice about stuff, man. We didn't know. We all the same age, trying to give each other advice.
Blind lead the blind.
Right?
You saw one episode of Oprah and you were like, I know better than you.
We all consulting with each other like, yeah, man. And, you know, everybody taking a vote. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, man. No, that don't sound like a good idea. But we didn't know what we were doing, man. And then somebody would make a mistake, and then it's like, well, we thought that would have worked, but I guess not. You know?
Try again.
Yeah. And so after that room, I just started thinking about different conversations I had over the years, and even in different, you know, rooms on Clubhouse with men talking about different things and just friends in general. I was like, yeah, man, I was like, we really didn't know a lot about certain things growing up. And in some cases, because our fathers were just trying to figure it out themselves. And that even holds true to this life in general, like what you said, like you never really have it all figured out. No matter how old you get, there are some things you kind of have down, but we're constantly learning. And going through these different challenges and making these different mistakes, we need to come up with a plan. Okay, hey, that was a dead end road. Let everybody know that's coming this way. Don't go down that road, because I already been down there. It is dead end.
Warn them, please.
Yeah. Now, if you choose to go down there, that's on you. But warn everybody that you can. Hey, leave a little message there, you know. Don't turn that way, you'll be stuck, or you'll waste a lot of time if you go that direction. But it's up to us to share that, not only with ourselves, but younger generations and older, because it's a call to the older generation too. Like, hey, if you've been through some stuff, let the younger cats know. Like, hey, I've been through some stuff or whatever, and this is how you can avoid that. Because All of us got that conversation. Being an adult, they're still trying to figure it out while trying to raise us. And so it's like, yeah, when you get older, you get that. Nobody has it all figured out.
Nobody has the
Yeah.
answers.
But when
Nobody
we go
knows.
through different things, as long as we communicate and tell each other and help each other, then we'll learn.
Yeah, yeah. You know, one thing I wish that would happen more, going to the point of if you know something, warn or teach the youth or whatever generation, is we as a people, as Black people, need to be better about passing on the knowledge of financial literacy.
Yes.
Got to do better. Now, to the point of that, do they know financial literacy, or are they still trying to figure it out?
Yep.
It's two sides, right?
Yep.
We assume they got it together. They might not. And maybe it's a good thing they didn't teach you anything.
Yes, that too. Some of the stuff we learn, we have to unlearn because we weren't taught everything that was correct. It was just like that's the best they knew with the information they were given.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I mean, sometimes you were taught to cut meat with a serrated knife.
Yeah. Yeah. In theory, you would think because, hey, man, it just gets through it faster, but it's not a piece of wood.
Ooh, man, that thing is tearing it up.
Tearing it up.
But you learn. You do better.
Yeah.
So what would you tell someone that is going through a transition to where they're trying to make decisions? They have this fork in the road, right? And they come to you to say, "Hey, Terrence, you know, I have this fork in the road with a big decision that I need to make, and I'm scared about my confidence is really low about, you know, making this decision of, let's say you got to move somewhere out the country, and it affects everyone you know and love." And something like that. What would you tell them? A young man trying to make a really, really important decision in life.
Ooh. First off, I'll say I can't tell you what to do, but I can give you this advice. You got to weigh the pros and the cons. You got to look at what life will be like next week after you move, next month, next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years. The things that you may miss over here while you're in this other country, is it worth it? Do you have people in your life that have life-changing events that are coming up? Your loved ones? Are you going to be able to come back home if something happens and you have an emergency? Are you going to be able to come back home just like that? And if you aren't, are you going to be okay with that? Is where you're going something that's going to help you for your future? Like, there's no other way for you to better yourself or to obtain that goal you're trying to obtain than going right now and going where you're going. Like, you really have to look into all of that.
Yeah.
And then have a conversation with your loved ones, get their honest opinion. Don't let them sway you in one direction or another, but hear their heart and how it affects them, you leaving. And come up with the decision that's best for you and your family.
Yeah. Gotta do that. Yeah. Gotta kind of sit down as a group and figure it out. That's a part of being an adult too, knowing that you can't make the decisions in a silo.
Yeah.
Gotta introduce everybody else to it. So
got to. That's a pretty good question, because one of my guests, Russell Earl Jr., he did a backpacking in South America for 6 months, and that was an interesting decision for him. But he talked about the lows of how losing somebody while he was down there and not being able to go back up and, you know, attend the funeral and different things like that. So you got to think about that type of stuff.
Yeah.
His was only 6 months, but still, it's like that's part of the decision. And are you going to be okay with that?
Yeah. Because sometimes you will have regrets.
Yeah.
Just got to be comfortable with that trade-off. You know what? I think we should transition over to number 3.
Number 3. What did I tell you? That was Black Sheep.
Black sheep.
Yeah, so black sheep is a very interesting one
Yeah.
because you gave me the idea for this. Maybe should I say you challenged me to write this?
Did I?
You probably because when I told you about it, you was like, for real? Yeah, just randomly out the blue. You was like, you wanted me to write a black sheep poem.
Oh yes, I do vaguely remember now.
Yeah, and so
I was inspired that morning.
That's
But
why
I don't write poetry.
What was the matter of fact? While I'm looking for this, what was the idea? You remember where you were when you just thought about that?
I was in the kitchen, actually. I think I remember exactly like it was yesterday. I was in the kitchen and I was texting you. And for whatever reason, I was in like this mood, right? I was in this mood of trying to figure out, because sometimes you get in this stage in life where you want to reinvent yourself, but to do that, and reinvention is a necessary part of growth. You want to do that, right?
You do that well too, yeah.
Right. The snakes shed their skin so they can keep moving, right? So sometimes you gotta say, oh, okay, this is working, this ain't working. Let me see if I could be a better person at this. So let me reinvent myself. So first, to do that, I was looking back at myself. I'm like, well, who am I? What defines me, right? And at some point in my life, I gave myself the name Maverick because I didn't want to conform to society, because it was always a little weird. It was always a little weird, right? But I was okay with that. And I noticed that in some capacities, I felt like black sheeps in certain groups, not necessarily my family.
Yeah.
Maybe in certain points, because you can feel like a black sheep in certain points in life, but not constantly. All right. So I was always kind of around thinking about, how am I going to reinvent myself? So I was going through that thought process, and I'm like, to be unorthodox, you got to be a black sheep in a certain way, and you got to be comfortable with that. You got to be comfortable being different. And when you're comfortable with being different, then that's when you really start to learn who you are. But yeah, it's just trying to find how to move forward and reinvent myself. And that's the thought process that I was going through.
Man,
Straight up.
I never would have known. I'm glad I asked you that, because I didn't even ask you why. I was just like, okay.
Yeah, man, and sometimes it starts in a depressed state, and you try to break yourself out of that mood, in that funk, and sometimes that causes or is the catalyst for reinventing, because how am I going to get out this funk? Whatever I'm doing right now ain't working. So
yeah,
retrospectives happen.
I feel you. Yep, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so black sheep. Wondering what the path looks like, in this direction or that direction. Curiosity set you on a path of your own. Seen to the rest of a flock as wandering away, but that would imply aimlessly or carelessly in choosing your path. Your path was guided by the journey of self-discovery. Curiosity became the compass that helped you find your way. Always different, but never inferior. Always a loner, but never alone. Often indifferent, but never insignificant. Often misunderstood, but never misleading. A rogue willing to rethink the rules. A hero hell-bent on learning their own way, even if it's the hard way. A trailblazer that's passed every trial by fire. Thought to be invaluable because your complexion wasn't the preferred hue. Considered an anomaly because of the complexity of your non-conformity. An unaltered original that's always been recognized commercially for your beauty. Unreached and unrecognized levels of power because being different was considered deficient. A minority holding a majority of influence. The most desired and sought after. A leader in a crowd of followers. A standout in a crowd of standstill. Seen as the underdog, but always recognized as champion.
Deep. Deep, deep, deep. Okay, so let's break this down now. I think about this in two ways, possibly. First way is Black excellence. You know,
Yeah.
We looked at different because of our skin, the way that we walk, that we talk, we articulate, as they say, our swag. We're misunderstood, which may be the cause of why, we have such a weird relationship with law enforcement.
Yeah.
All these stereotypes that we have on us. Are we the black sheep because we're black? Okay, that's one. And if you take that element out of it, the other one is, okay, you embracing everything about you being different, because we're all different. We're all different from our skin tones. The texture of our skins are not the same. They give us moisturizers to try to get our textures the same.
Right.
Right? It gets you to wax and do all this stuff to say, hey, be like them on that show. It's smooth, right? Right? Do it. Right? So, and if it's too rough, you have eczema. Or whatever. All right, cool. But being comfortable with who you are is important for growth. Being comfortable with who you are and being different and accepting the fact that being different is a good thing. And is a good thing. I gotta say that again. It's a good thing. Different thoughts, different ways of looking at aspects of life is important. You don't have to go along with everything.
Nope.
You got to be comfortable with being different, and black sheeps aren't bad as long as you embrace the good parts of. You'll look back in life, literally look back in life and say, I'm glad I embraced who I am.
That's it.
That's it.
That's
now,
it.
I asked the question to you as I asked you on the other two. What caused you to write this poem, and what mindset were you in when you did it?
So I was thinking, how could I, because there are different types of black sheep, like you said, how can I write a poem that encompasses them all? And so there is being black in there is being the black sheep of the family, and then there is being different from your peers, that sort of black sheep. And so I wanted to go through the different things, like where I said that, to others it may look like you're wandering aimlessly, but you actually do have a plan. They just don't understand it. Because a lot of times people are considered black sheep because they don't follow everybody else. But
Exactly.
Nobody, in some cases, ever turns and look and say, but why are we doing what we're doing? Maybe they're on to something. And that's kind of like what we were saying earlier. Like, people just see something and it's like, yes, that's it, without actually doing the research for themselves or even just questioning why.
Yeah. Question why.
Yeah. So those were the things that were going through my mind when I wrote that. I was like, I wanted to show those three different types of quote unquote black sheep. But then I wanted to end with saying, with some power in being a black sheep, quote unquote. Like, you're actually a champion because you're different.
Mm-hmm.
Being different isn't always bad. And like you said, we can use some people being different and not just following everybody. So
yeah,
that's where I wanted to go with that. I was like, the people who I know who were quote unquote black sheeps, they had always something special about them. And in a
Yeah.
lot of cases, it wasn't nurtured the right way
Mm-hmm.
because maybe hearing and feeling like they were the black sheep, they went down on themselves. But I'm a firm believer if you're feeling different from everybody around you because it's something that you're supposed to be doing, that's different from the people that are around you.
Yeah.
And that's cool. Just embrace it. And on your journey, you may find another group of people who actually can relate to you.
Hey, man, let's remind the people out there, podcasting wasn't always a mainstream thing.
No, it was not.
They were like, oh, you got your little podcast.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, let me listen to a podcast. So let me do a podcast now. No. Nah. See, sometimes when you're a black sheep, you become a pioneer of a genre.
That's it.
Look at all the great success models out there that we have. Just look at them. They were black. They're all weird. All of them. Every last one of them.
Hey.
And even if you don't succeed, everybody's weird, man. Everybody's weird. Everybody's a black sheep in their own way.
And then another thing I thought about too, I looked up black sheep, like the definition, to get a deeper understanding. And it came from like a flock of sheep and then the one sheep coming out with dark wool.
Right.
And so it was like, oh man, we can't use this.
Yeah.
But over time and like now, the dark wool is the most expensive wool.
That's right.
So just give it time. Just give it time.
Trust the process.
People will see your value.
Yeah. Yeah. It's deep, man. All three of these, and these are just three. Now, if you haven't bought the book yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Man, if we had a hotline right now, we would light them up. I'm telling you, we light them up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We'll light them up. I'm telling you, straight up. Go ahead and get this book. Because when you read it, it's also, let me hold it up here because I got it here too. It's also very colorful and it gets you in that vibe of what you're reading. It's just not white pages. Audio listeners, I'm flipping the pages. You can probably tell. You know, you have this is thought put into it.
Oh, yeah.
Love put into it. Look at this. Look at this. It's beautiful. And it's again a journey into different areas. It's like an art kit, right? Matter of fact, your book is an art kit. There's paintbrushes in this art kit, and they're not based on pain. They're based on evolving through life.
I want to thank you for taking the time out to do this, man. This was really good. This is what I wanted to happen. I really appreciate you. Before we get out of here, man, let the people know how they can get in contact with you, what you got going on, anything you want to share.
Yeah. Always staying busy with the Black Smoke Barbecue podcast. You and I both. So find us both over there. I'm lurking in the comments a little bit less, but I'm going to increase that. So get over there. And we got the Patreon. I'm going to shamelessly plug that. Patreon.com/Black Smoke Barbecue.
Yes.
Spelled the barbecue all the way. Yeah, we got some good stuff over there. Just pay $5 a month, and the shenanigans afoot are amazing. But we make it worth it. And the Mavcast, I'm still doing that. I slow down and pick it back up when it makes sense. You know, stay busy and all that stuff. And of course, the Pastor Remote podcast. Got to do that. Got to keep up with that. We got some shows to talk about.
Oh yeah, got to schedule another episode. We're kind of behind.
A little bit. It's okay though. It's okay. A lot of shows are ending, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about in its entirety. So it's all good. But you guys can always find me anywhere you see the name Charlie Maveric, CharlieMaveric, everywhere except I'm on X, but I'm not. Don't look me up. Just don't do it. Just
don't look me up.
It's not worth your time because I'm not going to see it. It's
Right.
not going to see. I'm not going to look. But yeah, anywhere else, where you see that name, yeah.
All right, man. Oh, and one of my favorite podcasts is a new episode coming. Jesus Take the Wheel.
Oh well, with that pressure, I guess so. You gonna pressure me into it, man. Yeah. You know, we were actually supposed to do an episode during Christmas, but I had a surgery and I didn't go to Charleston, so we were supposed to tape it in person. But you know, excuses. Yeah,
but you did have on the Mavcast, and those episodes are really good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I did have that. Yeah, yeah, that made up for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, everybody, man, make sure you hit up Charlie. Not on X, don't look for him there, but look for him everywhere else. And this has been season 4 of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast. I'll be back next season with more guests, more topics, but you can still catch me over at Black Smoke, Passive Remote. You can catch me on Instagram. You know, I'm still doing my thing over there. My newsletter. Did not have a newsletter this month. National Poetry Month has been very busy. I've been keeping up with the Poem a Day Challenge, doing different things for Poetry Month. So please forgive me. My newsletter will be back next month. Make sure you subscribe to that. Substack, what is it? Terrence P. Elmore /substack.com. I'm on Substack. I can't remember. It's been so long since I plugged it. I don't even remember how you say it. But just look for Terrence P. Elmore on Substack and subscribe. The link will be in the show description. But until next season, until next time, remember, as always, keep pushing forward. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Brown Sugar Cafe podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Terrence P. Elmore, and this is the place where poetry meets conversation. Hit that follow button and turn on your notifications so you won't miss an episode. Check out my blog, thebrownsugarcafe.blog. Also connect with me on Instagram at thebrownsugarcafe. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, remember, keep pushing forward.